How do you feel about the characters that you write? Are they memorable? Do you love them or hate them? Is there a clear reason why they exist in your story? These are just a few of the questions you should ask yourself.
And here to talk with us about writing compelling characters is Cathy Tully. She has written several books, including the romance novel, Training Travis. Cathy, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
You know, one of the things that our viewers might be very interested in is when you have to create the backstory of the characters, how much time and energy do you put into that before you actually start writing?
Oh, I'm going to take about a month.
Wow.
But that's for all the characters in the book.
Okay. So
and I just sit and type.
Do some of them take longer than others? I assume maybe the main characters?
Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes they come right to me. Other times they take longer. I have to coax them out, and it's just part of my writing process.
Okay.
I know what I want to start with usually.
Okay. What does a well-rounded character look like, especially if you were trying to get your character towards certain goals in a book? Explain a little bit about that for us.
Well, I've learned years and years ago that characters have to have flaws. They can't be perfect because when people read them, they want to relate to them. So the more relatable your character is, the more reader enjoys them because they either live next door, they have a crazy aunt, or their grandmother was like that, or that kind of thing.
There's something that they can
there's
pick
something
out
they can pick up, yeah, that they connect to immediately. So I use people in my life all the time. I just change names and little things about them, and then I create people that I would like in my life that I don't have. So it's fun.
Well, that seems to make them very realistic, I would assume, and I hope that your readers are more engaged in that respect because of it.
Well, that's my hope too.
I worry that maybe some people might figure out that you're kind of making some things
No,
up
no,
about
it's not
them.
like that. I mean, I don't take my
Okay.
neighbor on the corner and actually write her.
Okay.
I'll take one or two things about her that stick out in my mind that I'd like to use in a character, and then I use those. They never really pick it up.
Like
My
a
family has no
favorite
idea.
trait?
Yeah, something she does, or even just a flaw, or something she does with her hands, or I don't know. It's just something little
Character
that I can
quirk.
throw in there that it's normal, but it's not everybody does it.
It makes,
So
that sounds like it would make them very realistic.
that's my idea of trying to, yeah.
Now, what about a character that's completely not like you? So maybe the opposite sex, maybe a completely different background. How do you prepare for that character?
Well, you could do research, and there are a lot of books you can look up. Like, if you know some of the traits that you want him or her to have, and you're not quite sure what the opposite extreme of that is, there are plenty of books you can look in that tell you, all right, if he's this way, the opposite is that way. So it makes you, it enables you to develop a character that's fully rounded. You can't just have him be happy all the time, or he's got to have a secret, or I can't explain it, but you have to do the whole 360. You're 360. You're not a one-dimensional person.
Right.
If I stayed with you long enough, I would learn a million things about you, and that's what makes you jump off the page. You, who you are, not just those one or two things that you throw in there, the whole person.
I like that. That's
So-
really nice.
Right.
Let's talk for a moment about secondary characters. Now, we spend so much time we think about when we're writing, we're so concerned about our primary characters, but secondary character can sometimes take over the page, sometimes we don't put enough energy into them. What can you tell us about that?
I love secondary characters, but I hate them too, because they do take over the story, and if you write them well, they're fun. And the more fun they are, the more you want them to be on the page. But as a writer, I've learned that you can only have 20% of the story with the secondary character.
Ooh, is that a rule of thumb? Or
yes,
do
and
you
years
actually
ago in my theater, I was always the supporting character, the supporting actress. And I loved that, because they play up, they steal the scene. But they also teach your hero and your heroine things, and they can guide them along the way to the journey too. So I always pick a quirky grandma, or a neighbor, or a wacko sister, or some cousin that just shows up out of the blue, and she's got all these nutty things about her that make people remember. And there's always a dog in my book.
I like dogs.
Always. People talk to dogs.
I think
when they're
dogs
alone.
are a very good choice.
They relate to the dogs differently than any person, and it shows a different
they have-
side. You can have a really gruff hero and put a little Yorkie on the bed, close the door, and he's a completely different man.
Do your
I'm a
dogs
little
have-
baby,
Come on.
Do your dogs have personalities too?
Oh, absolutely.
That's great.
I do research depending on the breed that I decided to use, and find out what they're like, and then I put them right in there. People love that because they like dogs. Everybody has dogs.
So researching on the animal as well as the character.
And I love
Well, they're
dogs.
characters. They're
Yeah.
absolutely still
They are
characters.
characters, and you got to watch how they don't steal the book as well
Yes.
either, because
Oh,
they
yes.
can.
Now, what about when you have, a character should be strong in your book, sort of stand out. But what about when your character is a bit more timid and shy? How should the writer go about addressing that character so they stand out to the reader?
Whenever I've had a timid or shy character, they start out that way. But it's part of my job as a writer to build that person. So by the end of the journey in the book and the story, they have to make a complete turnaround. So they may start out timid and shy, but they are strong and fierce by the end.
So
because you have to show the reader the change. They must grow. If they don't grow, it's just boring. It's like, why? What's going on? There's nothing happening here. They're not a compelling character at all. They have to learn, they have to change, they have to learn, whether it's learning to trust or love, or you have to decide all of that before the story so that you can set their path up. And then his and hers arcs are over each other. It's amazing. It's a great process.
It is very complex.
It's so fun. I love it.
Are there any words of advice you could give to some younger writers who might be just kind of getting into this and making some kinds of mistakes with characterization?
Oh,
you might tell them to watch out for certain things?
Well, I don't know about my teaching them. I'm certainly not a teacher, at least I don't think I am, but you have to go to conferences, you have to get on loops, you have to talk to people, you've got to meet people, go to the local conferences, go to the national if you can afford it. Join organizations. I'm a romance writer, so I'm part of Romance Writers of America, but I'm also part of the Romance Writers of Jersey and Connecticut and New York, but it's been 15 years for me. In the very beginning, I started with Romance Writers of America, and I started going to these conferences, and these women were amazing, well-known authors. Just, you can ask them anything, and they're so open, and Suzanne Brockman, Debbie Maycomer, you name it. Well, how are you? What are you writing? Like they care. And they've got 92 books out, and I'm just awed by the fact that they're even sitting at the table with me. And they share all their information. You've got to go here, do this, make sure you do that, remember not to do that. You've got to hook up with these people because you want to surround yourself with success. And if you surround yourself with people who are successful, positive, good people, and you're bound to become that way yourself. You can't help it. It emanates right off them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are there any other resources that you would recommend for writers to help develop their characters?
There's a great book called The Emotional Thesaurus. Oh, I don't know what I did without it. I really don't. You're writing, and you're thinking, all right, he's got to feel something here. Oh, so not only I'll type in, write a feeling, and move on, because I've got the story in my head. Later, I go back to this fabulous book called The Emotional Thesaurus, and I'll say, okay, he's got to be sad here. But you can't tell the writer he was sad. You have to show them. Yes. So I usually do it through an action. And that also eliminates a tag, because if I show him doing something, I don't have to say his name, or I can say his name, John ran to the door and whatever. I don't have to say John said or John. I show it through an action, and also his emotions through an action.
And this thesaurus has a lot of good
suggestions. Anything you want, any emotion that you're looking for, it's listed in alphabetical order. Great. Boom, page 96, open it. Don't just use one people, use 3 and 4. That makes them even deeper. Because when we read these things, we say, oh, your heart starts wrenching, and you think, oh, I felt that way before. That's happened to me. So the more emotional you can make your character, the better.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I know I definitely learned a few things, and I hope that our viewers did as well.
I hope so too.
Take care.